Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Best of British Blackwell. Today we have two reasons to celebrate. Firstly, we've reached 2,000 subscribers and I have to thank you for that. It's all of your effort, support and subscribing to my channel that is the reason that we've got there, so thank you very, very much. In my previous video, which I will post up here, there was an opportunity for you guys to win a couple of prizes kindly donated by our friends at Lucata. Only one of those prizes have been claimed so far, so check out that video up there and be sure to claim the prize that is still going free. Second reason to celebrate is that one of my videos has reached a milestone of 100,000 views, which is absolutely incredible. It's one of the first videos that I did about 3 years ago, and it's for the Crackling pork belly, you know. So again, I've posted that video up here so you can go and have a look at that and just refresh your memory. Today, what are we going to be doing? So we are going to be paying homage to the pork belly, and we're going to be doing it in a slightly different way. I'm going to be making what is a bit of an Italian classic called a porchetta, which is a rolled pork belly breast, and I'm going to see if I can achieve the same results of perfectly crispy crackling by cooking the pork belly a completely different way. So yes, this video is going to be a little bit involved, it's going to be a little bit fancy, it's going to be a little bit tricky, but you know, what else to celebrate reaching 100,000 views? So come over, have a look at the ingredients, and let's make a start. Okay, so here are our ingredients. We have got a lovely piece of pork belly here. As you can see, you know, there's a good amount of meat to fat ratio there, but a lovely bit of fat and a really nice cut skin on the top there. This is about 15-16 centimeters by 15-16 centimeters. Nice square piece there. We've got some garlic. We've got a banana shallot, or you can use an onion, not a problem at all. We've got some rosemary. We have some thyme and we have some sage. Beautiful herbs that go beautifully with pork. And the only other thing that we've got here is some salt. So I'm going for some smoked salt, some pepper and some olive oil. What we're going to do is we are going to stuff and roll this pork belly and then tie it, and then I'm going to cook it in a water bath for 24 hours to try and render out all of this fat in here, get those juices flowing in this joint of meat, get those herbs kind of permeating through it. Then we're going to salt it. We're going to try and make this skin as crackly as we possibly can by salting it for 24 hours. Then we're going to roast it. So this is a very long drawn out process, and I'm just hoping that the end result is a beautiful piece of crispy crackling pork belly with soft succulent meat on the inside. First things first, we have to get our stuffing ready, and that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so this stuffing that we're making is more of like a herb paste than it is an actual stuffing. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our little food processor here, and we're just going to chop up these basic ingredients and get them in there. I have got 5 medium-sized cloves of garlic, which are just going to go straight in there. I've got 1 banana shallot. Like I said, you could use a white onion. You use any onion really, red onion, not a problem at all. You just want an onion in there. I'm using a shallot because it's a little bit sweeter. So you don't have to chop it up too fine, just fine enough so that it gets into your blender. And then here with our herbs, all I've done is kind of just really roughly chopped these down. I'm not worrying about taking the stems off of these, anything like that. It's going to be blitzed to pieces in this blender here. So just get your ingredients in there. The aromatics in here are absolutely fantastic. All of these flavors work so well with a pork belly. So let's get these in. And then what we're going to do is just add something to bind these ingredients together. So my favorite ingredient is a little dash of Worcester sauce. And now we need something to sweeten it as well. So I've got some cherry wine here. Now you don't need too much of this. It just adds an extra layer of sweetness. And then finally we're going to get some salt in here. We're not going to put pepper in at this stage. This is that smoked salt I was telling you about. Okay, so check that out. That is what we're looking for. That is going to be the stuffing to our beautiful piece of pork belly. Okay, so let's move on to preparing the pork belly now. And what I'm going to do is place it onto the board, skin side up. I'm going to get a very sharp knife, which I've just sharpened and cleaned. And what I want to do now is open this up like a book. So just getting my knife, running it sideways, I want to create a divide between the crispy pork belly skin and the meat itself. So take your time with this. You don't have to rush it. Be very, very careful, because like I said, the knife is very sharp. Just using your eye to... If you bought this at a butcher's, the butcher would do this for you if you asked them to open it up for you. So you're almost butterflying it. But take your time. And as you can see, slowly but surely, I'm able to separate the skin from the meat. And here we go. That pork belly's been opened up wide. Don't worry too much if it's not too even, because obviously the proportion to meat and fat in a pork belly is going to vary. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to open up and make sure that you've got this skin around the outside here, because that's what we're going to roll everything into. Now, next stage for us is going to be to get some seasoning in here. So I've got some black pepper. It's the first time we've used pepper. There's some black and red peppercorns in here as well, which adds a lovely bit of colour. I love the flavour of the red peppercorns. We're going to get that all over here, plenty of pepper. Then we're going to get some olive oil, just to make sure the internal of this meat doesn't dry out. Like I said, we're going to be putting this in a sous vide, so a water bath, for 24 hours. Now, with the fat content in this meat, the chances of it drying out are very, very low anyway, but you add a little bit of olive oil, it just guards against that too. Now we're going to go in with our filling, which is that beautiful herb mixture. I can't tell you just how good this smells. Every single flavour that we've put in this mixture perfectly complements pork belly. It's sweet, it's aromatic, it's almost spicy because we've got some of that Worcester sauce in there. You know, you can smell it. It's got that kind of vinegary kind of ting to it. It's so nice. Okay, there we go. Make sure we don't waste any. Get it all in there. Put this to one side. Now we're going to go in with some salt. This is some smoked salt, works perfectly with pork. Now is the relatively tricky part. We're going to roll this together. But what I find is easiest is to turn it this way. Hopefully you can still see that, wonderful. And I start to roll from this end outwards, inwards I should say. A little bit falls out there, just throw it back in. Roll it all together. And by the time you get back up here, the skin should start to roll itself back around this pork belly. Like I said, look, this gets a little bit messy, don't worry. But once you've rolled it around like that, stick it back on the top here. And then what we're going to use is our twine here. Now I've got this lovely pink twine. I did have some butcher's twine, but that's gone missing. I'm going to use some twine here. I'm going to tie this joint together. Okay, so now that we're all completely tied up, you know, I've gone, 5 or 6 times around to keep it all together, and then once long ways along the top, just to try and keep everything in. It's a little bit messy, it's a little bit fiddly, but trust me, it's worthwhile. You're going to be locking that flavour in. The next thing we need to do is vacuum pack this, ready to go into our sous vide. Beautifully sealed, ready to go into our water bath. Okay, so our water's reached temperature. It's at 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Like I said, this is going in for 24 hours. So just pop that straight in. Little word of advice for you when cooking pork in a sous vide. It does tend to float, so keep a very close eye on it. You want it to be completely submerged under there. If it does start to float, just get something heavy on top of it to weigh it down. But we'll be back in 24 hours to see what this looks like. So here we go. Our pork joint has been in the sous vide now for 24 hours. It's time to take it out. I'm just going to let this cool a little bit. Then I'm going to drain these juices off, and I'm going to get this joint as dry as I possibly can by patting it down, letting it drain, patting it down. We need the skin and the flesh on this to be bone dry. So let's come back when we're at that stage. Okay, so I've let the joint cool down now, and what I've been doing in between that time is just patting it with some kitchen roll or some kitchen towel to try and get as much moisture off of this skin as possible. Now you can see there's still a little bit coming off there, but actually that's pretty much as dry as we're going to get it. The next stage now, the next 24-hour stage, is to salt this pork belly joint. And to do that, all I'm doing is I'm putting some salt in the bottom of a plastic container, transfer the joint straight over, and now apply salt straight on to this joint. As much of the skin as possible. It may seem like quite a lot, but what we're trying to do here is draw every single piece of moisture out of that flesh. Now I'm going to be putting this into a fridge, no lid on it. I've got a little empty fridge in my garage which I'll be using, because what we don't want is the kind of aromas of anything else in the fridge or this to impart onto anything else you've got in there. So ideally in a fridge on its own. If you can't do that, whack a lid on it, that will work just as well. And this is going to go in for about 24 hours. I'm going to turn it over after 12 hours and then we'll have a look at this tomorrow. Okay, so we are now 2 days into this cook. We've spent 24 hours cooking this in the water bath, and now this has been sat in salt in a fridge for the past 24 hours also. What I'm going to do now is just get some kitchen roll, and what I've done is I've removed as much of the salt from the flesh as I can. Now I'm going to go over this flesh and try and remove as much moisture as I can. That is pretty dry now. Now we're going to get it into the oven. So I'm going to transfer it from this plate onto a baking tray. This is going to go into the oven at 200 degrees centigrade for about 20 minutes until we start to get a beautiful crispy crackling on there, and then this will be ready to serve. Okay, here we go. Been in the oven about 20-30 minutes. Now it's time to let this rest, but that is sounding pretty good. Okay, so we've let this rest now for about 10 minutes and it's about ready to carve. As you can hear, hopefully, plenty of crackling on there. Nice and crackly all the way around the outside. Did catch it a little bit. There are a couple of bits which you could call burnt, but let's get cut into this and just see. Try and do it without cutting my hands. Oh yeah, that's a good sound, isn't it? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. For this, I'm going to get a much bigger knife. And I'm going to take a piece off of the end here. Oh wow, look at that skin. That's pretty decent, isn't it? That's just fallen apart. That's broken like a piece of glass. Now have a look at that. We've still got those herbs and spices in the middle. It's still very, very juicy in there, but look at that crackling. That crackling's just fallen to pieces. I've got to try a piece of this. That is so good. Let's get another cut here. Look at that. Just the way that falls apart, it really does just shatter like a piece of glass, doesn't it? And it's just so good. Wowee, what a lovely, exceptional piece of pork that is. It's taken 2 days to get to this stage, to get to the stage where we're ready to eat it, but boy was it worthwhile. You know, even the smells when we started to sous vide it that you're not really supposed to get because it's vacuum packed in. The house was just filled with the aroma of those herbs and seasonings that are in there. It's so, so good. And as you can see, that skin crackling was just like shattered like glass. It was absolutely superb. So hopefully now you've now seen pork belly made 2 different ways. Let's see if we can get this video up to 100,000 views like the last one was, and let me know what you think of this recipe here. Thank you for watching.